Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I apologize for episode 3 of the Voodoo Sports Show taking so long to come out. I swear I'll get out soon. I'm sorry if I sound crappy right now. I got a cold before the weekend. I'm still recovering from that, so hopefully over these next few days I'll get better. Originally the video that was going to post today was going to be episode 3 of the Voodoo Sports Show. I was going to congratulate Obi on his big old accomplishments. I was talking about WWE, UFC 314, which is Miami this weekend. And I'll get to that video sometime before this weekend so I can get the WWE and the UFC stuff out of the way. But in today's video, I want to talk about something a little bit more serious. It's an issue that is happening in the college realm. So for those of you who don't follow the big news about college sports, there's a big House settlement regarding the NCAA and the government right now about athletics and athletes getting financial compensation. Uh, Not that long ago, athletes sued the NCAA over its long-standing ban on paying players beyond athletic scholarships, arguing that it violated antitrust laws in place. This story is about Reggie Bush. He forfeited his Heisman Trophy. There's a big scandal about Reggie Bush, about the school directly paying him, or him receiving NIL money, and therefore he was banned from college football, and he's on the College Football Hall of Fame, and he had to forfeit his Heisman Trophy. If you look at SMU received the death penalty from sports because they were financially paying their players, directly paying their players. The punishment so harsh that it single-handedly set the football program at SMU back decades, and it really seems like really just now they're starting to recover from it, or starting to finally come into the light after that big period of darkness for the SMU football program. So this has been a really long-standing issue. Now, athletes have been able to get NIL money for years now, sign big deals, and because of that, we've been able to get the A college football back. I anticipate we'll get a lot more college games out soon. But in 2024, a massive, really big, $2.8 billion settlement was proposed, and it will most likely be going down sometime soon. When this happens, for the first time ever, schools and athletic departments will be allowed to directly pay their athletes for their performance on the field. Now, on one hand, this looks really good. If you're a star player in college, in which there's no guarantees that you're going to perform at the professional level, if the professional level even promises that much money for you, it's a chance for you to make the money now. A chance for you to earn your financial compensation right now. And on the surface, it seems like a really good thing, because more athletes are going to be able to actually be directly paid by schools, which will help them float financially a lot better. But there is a catch to this, and it's the catch that I do want to talk about today. Money does not grow on trees for these schools. The schools do not have unlimited money. The more money they have to pay players, especially in football and basketball, the money-making sports, that's money they gotta find from somewhere else. We've seen schools like Tennessee put a 10% fee on tickets to help their NIL fund. We've seen Oklahoma State put QR codes on the back of their football program, football helmets, so fans can donate directly to their NIL fund. But schools are going to have to start going to extremes to be able to pay their players. Some of those extremes is the ones that I want to talk about specifically today. Taking away funding or roster spots from the Olympic sports. The Olympic sports, simply put, compared to football, basketball, they just simply do not make that much money compared to them. In 2015, a statistic came out showing that amongst Division One athletic departments at the Power 5 level, not Power 4 level, the only two profitable sports were football and men's basketball. Every other sport, men, women, bled money. Now, obviously, the last few years it's changed a little bit with the women's basketball really starting to emerge, but for the most part it's the same. The Olympic sports, they don't get much TV attention, they don't get much revenue, they bleed money. And for a lot of these athletic departments, they operate at deficit every year. If you're not competitive at football, simply put, or basketball, you're not good financially as an athletic department. Which is why a lot of these schools are putting their money into their football programs, and their basketball programs because they know if they can bring good athletes for those sports and they can compete well in those sports financially, they're going to be fine. Which means the neglect and what we're really starting to see is the destruction of the Olympic sports at the collegiate level. Now, the biggest part about this is the cutting of athletes. 5,000 athletes, collegiate athletes, across the United States of America have either already been cut, are in the process of getting cut, or will soon be told that they got cut. One moment the position on the team is secure going forward, and the next moment a complete 180 has been pulled and our coach is telling them, we're sorry, but you no longer have a place on the team. 5,000. That's a lot. Now, obviously, roster cutting is not something new to sports. Athletes are cut from their sport every year, but most times they're not, they're just walk-ons. But recently now, we're seeing that the NCAA in a lot of sports has issued roster size limits that reduce the sizes of rosters significantly, which is why we're seeing these athletes now lose their spots on their teams. There is a quote I'm going to use from a Reddit user who follows college swimming, but the University of Florida's men's swim team has 41 swimmers on their roster. The new SEC roster limits would cap rosters across every SEC school, including the University of Florida, to 22, which means there are 19 swimmers on Florida this year who are gonna have to be told that their roster spot is no longer going to be a part of the team going forward, and that they're no longer a part of the team. According to runnersworld.com, the unnamed athlete of a parent, it doesn't seem fair. This settlement going through, she's losing that money, she's losing her roster spot so other people can be paid. Gannon Flynn, a swimmer from the University of Utah, according to sportsbusinessjournal.com. We're not here for the money, we just want to play and compete. But they can't do that, because their school's taken away their roster spot. Now, for these athletes who are in danger of losing their roster spot, they really all have three options. Just A, do nothing, just get cut and no longer be a part of your sport. B, hit the transfer portal, try to take your talents elsewhere, another school that would promise you a spot on their roster, despite all of this. Or three, sorry, one second. Or three, try to pursue medical disqualification. But obviously, all three of these have their downfalls. Medical disqualification is frowned upon in the NCAA for athletes that aren't actually hurt. Because when that happens, the NCAA has to pay the athletes rather than the athletic departments. So with the transfer portal, you can still play your sport, but there's absolutely no guarantee that the scholarship you had at the school you're at right now will carry over to that sport. It won't at all, actually. The school you're transferring to is going to have to give you another scholarship, if they even do. And if you do get one, there's no guarantees it's going to be what you agreed upon at your original school. And then obviously, the most heartbreaking one for the athletes that most of these athletes are having to settle for, saying your career is over. Your spot on your roster is gone. You no longer have a spot on the team. Just call it quits. Your athletic days are done. Now, as I said, even before the lawsuit, schools were already cutting players and in some instances stunning teams. As a result of the pandemic, Stanford, yes, the Stanford, nearly axed 11 varsity sports in 2020 because they couldn't afford to keep up with the financial plunder they were going through because of COVID. So it's not like this is new. But a lot of for these athletes, this is just coming up now for them. They weren't warned at all that they were going to get this. A lot of these athletes were recruited to their schools saying that they thought they were going to have a secure spot in the team, that something like this would never happen, and now they're getting cut. They're not getting closure. They're not going to get the senior meet. They're not going to get the cool send-off. For the case of most of these athletes, it's a 10, 15 minute with your coach, meeting with your coach in which your coach tells you, we're sorry, but you no longer have a spot on the team. Thank you for your time, but you're cut. The non-revenue sports, especially the Olympic sports, the ones that are mainly on the shopping block as far as roster limits or even in the worst instances being threatened to lose their sport entirely, are these: fencing, track and field, rowing, gymnastics, wrestling, swimming, diving. If you're an athlete on those sports, you're no longer guaranteed a spot on your team's roster in the future. You might be told with the portal, receive medical disqualification, or you might just have to accept the fact your athletic days are done. This is not good for the Olympics. 80% of Olympic athletes were produced by college. You know, people like Michael Phelps or Simone Biles or Caleb Dressel, they don't grow on trees. Not everybody is going to make the Olympic roster through high school and be successful up through high school. A lot of these athletes are gonna have to go through college to find their game and to develop themselves into the elite athlete they know they can be. But with this house settlement threatening to take away their roster spot, they're no longer guaranteed to be able to live that dream. As I said, 80% of Olympic athletes go through college, and now colleges are threatening to end their athletic careers before the case of a lot of them, they believe they can get their careers jump started. But here's the thing though, like I said earlier, these schools, they're they have their hands tied. They don't want to do this, but they have to. But the reality is, odds are, unless you're a top tier football or a top tier basketball program, you're probably operating at a deficit as an athletic department. You don't get the TV attention. You don't get the big media deals. In the case of the Olympic sports, you don't get anywhere near as close as of an attendance as a packed crowd at a football game or a tournament game for March Madness for basketball. You're not going to get that. Unless you're a powerhouse in that department, you're not going to get that. And even if you are a powerhouse, it's not going to be the same as football or basketball. They don't make money. They're going to be easy to pick at first. At least from the perspective of the athletic department. But that doesn't make it easier for these athletes. These athletes who spent their lives developing their talent, wanting to become something great, going to a college because they think they can reach athletic excellence, and then their coach tells them they no longer have a spot on their team. There's not a whole lot we can do, but here's three ideas. Federal or NCAA backed support funds for the non-revenue sports, those being the Olympic sports, or basically any sport that operates at a deficit, or pretty much any sport that's not football or basketball. The Olympic Committee is partnering more directly with the schools, with the Olympic Committee directly protecting the Olympic sports that have made the Olympics so good for over a century before this, trying to help out a little bit. Because these athletes do not want to lose their spot in the roster. They want to play the sport that they love. Or new models of equity and athletic department funding that allow these sports to continue at the normal roster sizes that they're allowed to. But odds are that's not going to happen. Because the House settlement will most likely be signed within the next few weeks, and once that does, all those roster spots are going to disappear. And we will officially be in the realm of colleges directly being able to pay their athletes. And like I said, schools paying their athletes is not a bad thing. It's a good thing that these athletes can finally make financial compensation for their performance on the field. The elite athletes can finally be paid for being the elite athletes they are, and I congratulate them for that. You worked your ass off to get to the top, and you're there. Congrats. But if you participate in an Olympic sport, where you don't make as much money, but you still want to make it to the top one day, that path is a lot harder than it already is. Let alone when this house settlement is breathing on the back of your neck, threatening your roster spot and your place on the team. Now forcing these athletes to either quit sports, go to a new school where they may not have the same scholarship, or just pursue medical disqualification so they can still make the same money, but once again, they'd be quitting their sport. I'm sorry this video was a little more sad, a little more dull, but it's a real issue that the NCAA is dealing with right now. And I fear that over the next 5, maybe 10 years, hell, maybe less, that if something doesn't get done about this, and the more and more schools are paying their big players, like Bryce Underwood, who was just paid $12.5 million to go to Michigan, and the rest of these schools are going to try to scramble and see if they can compete, they're going to do whatever it takes. And if that means us getting down to the days where we see more and more schools fully scrap teams, that's what it'll take. Because at the end of the day, the Olympic sports don't make as much as football or basketball. Football or basketball performance really determines how well you're doing as a athletic department. So that's what these athletic departments are going to put their money to. And it threatens the existence of Olympic sports today at the collegiate level. If you're watching this video and if you're an athlete or you know an athlete who's going through this, who's lost their spot in their team, share this video with them. Have them maybe talk in the comments a little bit. Let us hear your story. Let us know this pain that you are going through right now, knowing that you might lose your spot in the roster that you already have. What that feeling is like. Knowing the school that you once dedicated your life to being a part of just told you that you're no longer welcome to play sports. Because you're not the only one going through this, and until these athletes' voices can be heard at the NCAA, or even in Congress for that matter, nothing's going to change. These athletes are going to continue more and more every day to have their roster spots threatened. And eventually we're going to get to the days in which we see the Olympic sports being cut from schools entirely. I love sports. There's no doubt about that. I love sports a lot. But I want I want us to do our best to protect these athletes. These athletes who love the sports, whether you're someone who's a superstar or if you're just a role spot in the team, you love the sport too and you want to play sports. They all want to play sports. But they cannot do that when their roster spot's being threatened. Everyone deserves an equal opportunity to participate at the college level, to play sports at the college level. So let's step up for these Olympic athletes, the Olympic sports athletes. Let's give them their freedom back, and let's allow these athletes to do what they do best, and that's play the sport that they love. Thank you. I'll see you next time.